The fluorescent lights of the clinic buzzed faintly, humming like an ominous reminder of the cold reality surrounding me. I sat in the corner chair, knees pulled tightly to my chest, the chill from the cracked window seeping into my bones. My mother had insisted I sit apart from her and my younger brother, Evan. He lounged in the exam chair, swinging his legs lazily as the nurse took his vitals. Even here, he was treated like royalty. My mom stroked his hair tenderly, praising him for the smallest compliance, while I existed as nothing more than a shadow in the room. The doctor entered, adjusting his glasses, clipboard in hand. "We'll need some blood work for Evan. He's been showing signs of fatigue," he said casually. But my mother's sharp, cutting laugh immediately sliced through the sterile air. Leaning forward, she said in a cruelly casual tone, "Why not use her blood for my son? She's just storage anyway." I froze. The words landed harder than any slap. Evan giggled, mimicking her cruelty. My chest tightened, fists clenching beneath me, nails biting into my palms. I wanted to scream, to protest, to assert that I wasn't some empty container meant for use. But I stayed silent, swallowing my rage. The nurse and doctor exchanged uncomfortable glances, clearly disturbed, but my mother's smirk remained. "Of course, it doesn't work like that. But wouldn't it be nice if she finally served a purpose?" she said, her eyes sweeping over me as though I were invisible. On the drive home, their laughter filled the car, pressing me into silence. My father even joked that they should start charging me rent for existing. Evan chanted "storage, storage," gleefully, reinforcing the cruel label. That night, lying awake, I made a vow. They thought I was just storage, but storage remembers, observes, and waits. One day, the one they underestimated would strike back. From that day forward, the nickname storage became my cage. My parents and Evan used it relentlessly, in private and in public. Every mealtime, every chore, every interaction carried the reminder: I was invisible, worthless, just storage. Post-it notes appeared on the fridge. Sarcastic comments slipped into casual conversations, and jokes were shared with their friends at my expense. Evan even filmed me for social media, laughing with his friends and calling me a storage unit. My parents joined in without hesitation. Yet, instead of breaking me, their cruelty sharpened my awareness. I began observing everything, every boast, every lie, every obsession, with appearances and pride. My mother constantly exaggerated Evan's achievements, relishing the image of perfection, while my father mocked me over mundane chores, reminding me that my existence was only tolerated if it was useful. Evan flaunted his power among friends, recording every act of dominance, every bit of humiliation I endured. I stopped reacting to their jabs. Silence became my shield. With every insult, I learned their patterns. With every cruel word, I collected evidence. I memorized routines, documented exaggerations, and screenshot conversations. Each taunt became data, each lie, ammunition. I transformed their toxicity into insight, preparing for a moment that hadn't yet arrived. In silence, I became vigilant. The more they mocked, the more they revealed about themselves, their weaknesses, their obsession with control, their inflated pride. Their attempts to diminish me no longer caused despair. They provided information. I began to see the power shift quietly in my favor. Storage, they said. But storage doesn't just hold things. It records, remembers, and waits. And I was waiting, patiently, silently. Every cruel act, every mocking laugh, Every boast was carefully stored, building toward a reckoning they couldn't foresee. The girl they called Storage was no longer powerless. She was preparing for the right moment to turn the tables. Their cruelty became my guide. Each day, each joke, each mocking comment was a lesson in who they really were. At doctor appointments, on car rides, at home, I was always reminded that I was just storage. But instead of breaking me, their words fueled my focus. I began turning every moment into preparation. Every glance, every tone, every boast became a clue, a piece of a puzzle I was silently assembling. I started collecting evidence. When my parents exaggerated Evan's accomplishments, I wrote it down. When Evan bragged about cheating or bullying, I saved screenshots. Every cruel remark, every humiliating joke, I recorded secretly. Their attempts to humiliate me were becoming my arsenal. When the next doctor's visit arrived, I was ready. My parents strutted in with their usual arrogance, Evan bouncing along beside them, confident and mocking. They expected me to cower, to shrink into the corner, to take it silently as always. But I had prepared for this. My phone was discreetly positioned, capturing every toxic word, every laugh, every venomous comment. Their laughter, once a weapon that crushed me, became proof of their abuse, proof of their arrogance, proof of the cruel reality they tried to mask. For the first time, I was not powerless. I had transformed their cruelty into undeniable evidence. Storage, they said. She's useless. Why not drain her blood for Evan? Their words filled the room, but I didn't flinch. I didn't react. I waited, recording, observing, storing. Storage isn't powerless. Storage holds, waits, and strikes at the right moment. Every cruel act, every mocking glance, every joke they had thrown at me over the years had become ammunition. And now, their next mistake would be their last. I wasn't just a passive victim anymore. I was ready. The stage was set. The reckoning was coming. The day of Evan's next doctor appointment arrived. My parents walked into the clinic with their usual confidence, carrying smug smiles and a sense of entitlement. Evan bounced ahead, grinning, already planning the jokes he would make at my expense. They expected me to be small, silent, powerless. But this time, I was ready. I quietly set my phone on the counter, carefully angled to record everything. Every cruel word, every mocking laugh, every poisonous comment would now be captured, indisputable evidence of their toxicity. The nurse and doctor exchanged wary glances, sensing the tension in the room. My parents didn't notice. They were too consumed with their own arrogance, ready to humiliate me once again. "Don't worry, sweetie," my mother said to Evan, her voice dripping with false tenderness. "If he faints, maybe Rachel's blood can cover him. She's just storage after all." My father chuckled, adding, "Might as well drain her completely. At least she would finally serve a purpose." Their laughter rang through the sterile room. Evan smirked, relishing their cruelty. But I stayed calm, my silence deliberate. Then I revealed the phone. The screen glowed, and their words, their laughter, played back in the room. Their faces went pale. The nurse froze. The doctor's eyes widened. Even Evan's smug grin faltered. The power had shifted. Their cruelty, once invisible, was now undeniable, permanent, and public. They could no longer dismiss it, deny it, or twist it. Every insult, every mockery, every joke was laid bare, a record of their abuse. For the first time, I wasn't the powerless one. Storage had transformed into a weapon. What they had used to control and humiliate me for years was now their undoing. had waited, watched, and prepared. And now, their arrogance, their cruelty, their laughter would backfire spectacularly. Once the recording was revealed, everything changed. My parents' carefully maintained image of perfection crumbled in an instant. The nurse and doctor were stunned, and they immediately understood the gravity of the situation. Reports were filed. Their abusive words could no longer be hidden. What had once been private cruelty was now undeniable and public. Evan's smugness vanished, replaced by shock and shame. He had laughed at my expense for years, but now the tables had turned. His friends no longer saw him as clever or powerful. They saw the ridicule he had inspired. My father's colleagues whispered about his family's toxicity, and even my mother's friends began to distance themselves. Everywhere they went, people whispered, judged, and recoiled. Their pride and arrogance, which had been their shield, shattered under the weight of truth. And me? For the first time I walked tall. The word storage, once used to degrade me, had become my armor. I wasn't invisible anymore. I was the one holding power. Years of humiliation, cruelty, and mockery had been carefully stored, recorded, and catalogued. I had turned their own weapons against them. Their laughter, once so devastating, had become their downfall. The evidence I collected ensured they could no longer manipulate, mock, or control me. I had survived their cruelty, stored it, and struck back, not with violence, but with undeniable truth. By the end of that day, the dynamic of our family had shifted permanently. I was no longer a passive victim or silent observer. I was the one with control. Their empire of pride had collapsed, and I had emerged stronger, sharper, and unbroken. Storage doesn't just hold things. Storage observes, storage waits, and when the time is right, storage strikes. I had waited, I had struck, and in the end, the joke was no longer on me. It was on them. Thank you so much for watching this story till the end. I hope you enjoyed it and maybe even learned something from it. If you'd like to hear more stories like this, full of life lessons, drama, and emotions, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss an update. Your support means the world, and it helps me keep bringing you more inspiring and unforgettable stories. Stay tuned because more amazing stories are on the way.